I'm gonna start with the POE because honestly I don't really have that much to say about this league and like other than just some random ranting later. But so there's two versions that I'm gonna show. This is the Tempered by War version, which I started out with. And I didn't even click Tempered by War because I realized that this was better afterwards. But and then there's the version I'm currently playing, which is the Hubris version. But going through this first, this is relatively standard Skin of the Lord's Enmity setup. It just happened to be on a Sabo because I league started Assassin, so there's like no special reason. You do have Shrapnel Specialist in Sabo, and Born in the Shadows to our Wander, so this is pretty nice. But yeah, nothing too crazy. This is a relatively standard tree for like right side Wander. You see this on like Deadeye also, or like maybe Trickster last league a bit different. But the main few things I want to point out here is that it is pretty difficult to scale this build, and the most important thing, why is this on this? The most important thing is you want flat damage. So you have quite a bit of increase because spell damage twice times two, and then you have 200% pen, right? So the only thing that you really need to scale is going to be flat damage, and I'll show a better example later on too for the skeleton because I think this should be the main takeaway of this build. Like there's nothing too crazy here other than that Skin of the Lords and Enmity Embrace is really strong. Foulborn Skin of the Lords, I should say. Keep in mind this build is also running Defiance of Destiny. I like to have this ticked, but depending on the map, of course, this can be even higher. It just essentially, right, like assuming you have a max roll Defiance, it's just roughly how high is the average hit of the map compared to a quarter of your max hit, essentially. Because if a hit is never gonna do more than like 23% of your max HP, this shit says infinite, basically. So, um, there's nothing special I want to mention on the tree really. I did opt to go for oh this actually this is important because our flat is actually through Immolate. A lot of it is through Immolate, and you want you want to running avoid ailment with max increase effective map mods because you're gonna lose a lot. You're gonna essentially like untick this, which is 50% of your damage, 45% of your damage. So the tankiest map mod that you should watch out for is actually avoid ailments rather than like increase monster life or more life or something like that. There are some modification you can have here, like the reservation here. Rather than taking this wheel, you can take the reservation here and do something else. But um, very standard. I don't think there's anything too special. Oh, one more thing for this is that there is frenzy generation on marked enemy, and there is mapping of endurance charge generation for mapping, but I do not have them marked both at once. So if you're gonna mark your frenzy, then you shouldn't mark your endurance. If you're gonna mark your endurance, you should mark your frenzy on this build because I think like this is a pretty standard like mapping setup that you will have. But you can't really take your frenzy here because honestly your damage is high enough to where the most rares or most marked enemies will die, and you don't have a charge duration, right? So not very consistent. Um, the reason why you've been hit recently and always gonna have rage up and you're gonna take Lunaris is because you're playing Enmity. So if you don't know, Enmity have the tick fire damage when they use a skill. So you can essentially ensure 100% uptime on Lunaris wing depth for 6% reduced ally damage taken, and once you hit 30 rage in a map, you're never gonna lose it as long as you keep attacking or just like using any sort of skill. And then I think these graphs are pretty locked in here. You're running Enmity, you're gonna run cover in Ash, and then of course jolting for attack build is mandatory this league. And then that's it. Yeah, just make sure your fire resistance is like 200%. You should be good to go. For the Hubris, which is what I'm currently playing now, it has way better ally max hit because of 90 auras, and your fist max hit is kind of shit because you're not running Arctic armor, but just try to avoid fighting like fist map boss, right? Like nothing else you can really do. So the main thing you change out is obviously the lethal pride, and then you also go for utmost. This way you get your max stress from, and also help with the suppression on gear, and like uh, not having to, what do you call it? Not having to have these tattoos here. So I actually have +6 here because this is just extra leftover tattoos from the previous build. The other pop is actually making use of this +6, but like if you're following this one, then you don't actually need it. This Hubris is also pretty cool because I didn't realize that projectile attack damage also affect the explosion portion of KB, or at least it says it does. So what this Hubris is doing is just giving you like real frenzy and endurance charge generation, because obviously you always hit recently, as I mentioned, block and then fire rest for you to cap out your fire rest. It's slightly tighter on this build, but it should be okay still. Um, I think other than that, oh yeah, the other thing that you want also is a +4/+4 um, attack and spell block jewel, so that you know you can get some avoidance because you don't really have any evasion or something like that. So you're gonna be relying on block. I have a solely like this one's solely for damage, but you can also just, if you don't really care that much about damage, you can get 4% more for each block. The Forbidden Flame, Forbidden Flesh decision is also kind of forced into Polymath because you don't really have any other node. Maybe you can tweak your build to have like 2.5 KES and you can take Soul Drinker instead. If this was 108 one step ahead and not 90 one step ahead, you would take it. And then Opportunistic is 25% conditional and Reflect Immune. So if you need the Reflect Immune, then maybe you can go for that. But everything else is basically useless. Um, Other than that, everything else should be the same on this build. Again, this is not a super like super. There's cool interaction here, there, or there's anything crazy, but it's just a standard Enmity setup, and it's taking use of the take fire damage when you use a skill to have some like cool interaction, and that's kind of it. So what I actually want to highlight instead is just the Foulborn Skin of the Lords and Enmity Embrace, and how good the scaling really is when you do have flat damage. And I think, again, as I said before, that should be the main takeaway. So you can see here, this is a BBBB. This is one cast of the unloading cast on 10 blades. So this is just a single cast. So each time you cast unloading on 10 blades, it does 41 million damage. And you can see here, this is all from just gem level, and because you converting fist to fire, you can also get gain as fire, right? And these are super cheap. Like you will see here that I have a triple anger Watcher's Eye, and I bought this for like 10 div maybe. So uh, stuff like this is like super cheap, and all you're doing is you're just abusing the high amount of flat that you're gonna get, right? And this works the same way if you have flat fire damage. Like if there's something that you have that is gonna give you a bunch of flat fire damage, the same principle apply. Like you have a bunch of increase because you can do stuff like this since you're only doing fire damage, or you only care about doing fire damage, right? And you have a good amount of more multiplier from inner conviction, and then all you need to do with like essentially 200 pen is you just need a bunch of flat damage. And to show how important it is, if I just take away one level, so right now this is 3110 to 46. If I take away one level, it goes to 4200. So like let's just say on average, like I lost like 300 flat, and that's essentially like um 10% of my damage ish. So I don't know, it's pretty crazy what flat damage does to Enmity. So yeah, I think other than this, it kind of sucks that the build diversity this league is like there, but not like what you would expect because you kind of they added eight, nine, nine bloodline. Is this 10? I can't count. They added 10 bloodline, and all you see is this, this hunt leader, of course, and the +1 ring slot, which is like I think the most common. Of course, there are other things that I think are cool, and I think that deserve to be built around. Like I think Tool of the Blizzard and Ash of the Storm is really good. I think these builds are pretty cool, like having the dual cryonic and dual synaptic rings. I've seen some Death Offering stuff. Of course, Jung made a Everlasting Sacrifice. I think some of the Priest of Yaumak or Priest of Kamasa stuff can be pretty cool too for Val Smite, and you just spam it. Um, Bitter Heresy. Bitter Heresy is really good too, I think. Let's see. I think you can something cool you can do is because this gives you curse effect, you stack that on top of profane ground, which is 10% increased curse effect on enemies, and then you can also get if your builds allow it, you can also get sleep in the profane and also the nodes leading up to it. So this is 40% curse effect on enemies, and you can stack enfeeble punishment and whatever else, right? This makes your max hit actually pretty good. So this is a pretty cool node. Of course, malediction, chaotic might too. But like overall, even though I named that many nodes, like I still like that's not even half of what is present, right? You can say like precursor release is a good node, but that doesn't mean it's all that interesting because all you're really doing is just if your build can run this, or if your build just happen to be able to run this, then well you can just take it, and you have the decision because there's not really in this game there's not really a opportunity cost whether you slot in your gems in your helmet or your gloves or your boots, which is fine, right? But I'm just saying like this not like you can freely choose between um you know stun, action speed, or you're not really forced into anything here, right? So, and then this is just a general 15% global defense. So, I don't think. I just think that overall, like this was pretty underwhelming. Like for an ascendancy point, obviously there's a lot of ascendancy where AK assassin and like other stuff like Sabo where your fourth ascendancy point is not really all that good. But then you're just replacing it with like a generally good node, which is kind of not what you want either. Because, like, of course, Hunt Leader's good, but who cares? Because 35% attack speed and 125% crit chance isn't interesting, right? You don't make a build because all of a sudden a node gives you 35% attack speed and 125% crit chance, right? You make a build because like a node give you shrapnel specialist, or you make a build because core spec give you 200% attack speed, right? Or profane bloom or whatever else. Like that's the cool part about an ascendancy, right? So I think overall it's underwhelming combined with the lack of gem balance and also the unfortunate but ever you know more in the direction of you want to stack every stat or you want to stack stats that synergistically scale both your defense and offense at the same time, which is why like strength stacker, in stacker, also respective to like life and energy shield or both, which is outscale dex stacking because you don't have defenses on a dex stacker a lot of the time, and you just have like a bunch of damage and you get one shotted. So I think outside of outliers like Enmity, where you just have a strong enough offensive engine that I can just afford to build defense separately. Like obviously I have a bunch of fire resistance, but like other than that, these are the defenses are built separately, and these are layered defense rather than just having 20k ES or just having a 22k mana pool with Mind of Matter and also scaling your damage because clustering exists. So I think hopefully maybe something's done about that soon and changes are made to the Bloodline Ascendancy. I think it seems like they want to keep this around, and I think it's fine. I think it would be nice if like things can be niche, but they should also be like good. like I don't know. I don't really see like somebody advocating for it wasn't me being like some super hidden busted node or even like a good node, or I don't see anyone advocating for Sinner Saint when we don't even have a way to convert Cold and Fire to chaos damage for the rest 50%. So maybe like I'm not knowledgeable enough, or like there's some real hidden tech that nobody knows about. But yeah, I think some of these nodes, I forgot to mention Herald Stacker earlier, but some of these nodes are just kind of shit, right? So yep. Other than that, again, there's not much to say about the league. Just wanted to rant about the balance and the builds a bit because I like making builds. I think it's fun. It felt kind of bad league starting assassin and trying out new stuff that I thought would be fun, but yeah, didn't really hit the spot. But I think next should be a 16.5 dunes, just quick clear on that, and then a double life, more life, and increase unique life on a fortress map. So have fun.
The Atlas twists all fates. Be gone from here.